Hello guys, so I woke up today, made breakfast, made some coffee and sat down to write a script for a new video. And as I was thinking of what to talk about, I was like, you know what? I want to do something a little bit different today. So, we're gonna do something a little bit different today. I'm going to talk about some of my favorite games that I think you'll like as well. The games on this list are all different, and yet they all have some overlapping aspects that manage to capture my interest. For a lot of these, it's the story and setting that initially interested me, as well as the characters and emphasis on choice. Not all of them fully focus on story, and there are a few where it's really just about the gameplay loop. But nevertheless, these games all have something that made me love them and made me want to go back to them and start a new playthrough every once in a while, even after I had already finished them once. This is just a simple, fun video made to recommend some good video games that I very much enjoyed throughout the years. And hopefully, you guys will get to enjoy some of these games as well. The games on this list are in no particular order. Some I have definitely talked about on my channel before, and others you might not have heard much about. So without further ado, grab yourself a warm cup of tea and let's jump straight in. Oh, and don't worry, this video is completely spoiler-free. The first game on this list is a cute little third-person game called Stray. It is a game about a cat set in a post-apocalyptic world where humans are no longer around. Instead, the lands are inhabited by cats. And robots, I guess, yeah, but mostly cats. The game was developed by Blue 12 Studio, a small team from the south of France made up of cats and a handful of humans. The game has you take on the role of a cute orange cat that gets separated from his family, and ends up in a neon-lit, cyberpunk-like city. You befriend a small flying drone called B12, a nice nod to the name of the developer studio, who helps you solve puzzles, uncover mysteries, and find a way back to your family. The story takes you through different areas within the city, and by collecting items for some of the robots and finding and recovering B12's memories, you slowly learn more about this city's history and the events that went down. You can interact with the robots that live in the area, and talking to them will give you additional context of the story and what it's like for them to live in the city. And it's just fun to see how they all react to seeing this strange furry creature running around in their neighborhood. Not only is it just fun to run around as a cat, the story is vague enough to not give too much away, but also keeps revealing just enough to keep you interested. And this game definitely has some moments where it pulls on your heartstrings a little bit. You can roam around freely through the levels most of the time, but occasionally you'll have to run from or sneak your way past enemies. You get to jump, climb, sleep, scratch, and most importantly, accidentally shove very breakable things off very high ledges. Basically, everything a cat loves to do. And it's fun for us humans too. Walking around and interacting with things in this game all feels very smooth, and the animations look pretty damn good too. This is just a fun, cozy game to play on a cold, rainy day wrapped up in a blanket with a warm cup of tea in your hands. Honestly, tea and cats. What more could you wish for? The next game on this list is Bastion. Now, the name Bastion might not immediately ring a bell, and no, I'm not talking about that Bastion. Come on, get off the screen, go away, go, shoo! Anyway, sorry about that, guys. Where was I? Oh, that's right, Bastion. So the name Bastion might not ring a bell, but what about Hades? I'm sure most of you will know Hades, the highly praised and very well received roguelike dungeon crawler developed by Supergiant Games. Well, Bastion was their very first game, and it is still enjoyed by many people to this day. Bastion is a 2D isometric action RPG that tells its narrative through a fantastic narrator and our silent protagonist referred to, by our narrator, as the Kid. In the aftermath of a catastrophic event known as the Calamity, which fractured the city called Zealandia and its surrounding areas, turning the lands into floating islands and most of its people into ash, the Kid finds himself waking up on one of the remaining pieces of land, and heads for the Bastion, a place where the people could go in times of trouble. When he gets there, he finds the Bastion in a damaged state and only one survivor, an older man named Rux, who is also our narrator. As per Rux's instructions, the Kid searches the Shattered Lands to collect shards and cores that used to power the city, and could now be used to repair and power the Bastion. The gameplay mostly consists of navigating through beautifully hand-painted areas filled with various types of enemies that you'll have to defeat. Throughout the game, you get to collect all types of different weapons as well as learn unique types of special attacks. Between levels, you frequently return to the Bastion to upgrade your weapons and repair buildings such as an armory, shrine, or distillery, each with a unique purpose. In addition to the regular levels you can play through, you can also choose to enter the Proving Grounds and a place called Who Knows Where. The Proving Grounds is a place where you can go to test your skills with the weapons you've acquired, with each weapon type having their own unique challenge. Who Knows Where is where you can battle waves of enemies while the narrator tells you a story about specific characters. After you finish the game, a new Game Plus is unlocked and lets you play through the game again while keeping your experience points, weapons, and fragments being the game's currency. It also gives you more buildings to repair and 2 more stories in Who Knows Where. Honestly, as of the writing of the script, it has been quite a few years since I last played this game. But what I still clearly remember standing out to me is how fun the narrator in this game is. Lots of games have narrators, but what was unique about this one, at least for me at the time, was that not all of his narration is what you'd call scripted. He frequently actually reacts to what the player does and makes witty comments when you do something stupid, like rolling off the edge of the map.
And then he falls to his death. I'm just fooling.
And then there's the music. I can never quite put my finger on what it is about the music in video games that makes me like it so much. All I know is that I just like it, and I've often found myself listening to the Bastion OST while drawing or traveling. Just have a listen for yourself. These soundtracks are just bangers, every single one of them. There's probably more I could say about this game, but as I said, it's been a while since I played it. Plus, I don't want to give away too much. All I know is that I will be jumping back into this game at some point in the near future. So another game with a narrator is the Stanley Parable. The Stanley Parable, I don't even know how to properly describe this game without giving away too much. It was developed by Davey Wreden and William Pugh. It's funny, it's wacky, it takes place in an office, and it's got a narrator that is really fun to annoy.
Yes, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
If you have not played this game and don't know what it is, just jump into it completely blind and buckle up because it's going to be an interesting ride. Actually, I'll just read what the Steam description says because it honestly describes the game perfectly. The Stanley Parable is a first-person exploration game. You will play as Stanley, and you will not play as Stanley. You will follow a story. You will not follow a story. You will have a choice. You will have no choice. The game will end. The game will never end. Contradiction follows contradiction. The rules of how games should work are broken, and then broken again. This world was not made for you to understand. But as you explore, slowly, meaning begins to arise. The paradoxes might start to make sense. Perhaps you are powerful after all. The game is not here to fight you. It is inviting you to dance. The next game on this list has a bit of a darker tone. Quite a bit of a darker tone, actually. But I wanted to mention it mainly because of the story and how the game chooses to tell it. The game I am talking about is called Beyond Two Souls. And if you haven't heard of this game, it was developed by Quantic Dream and is a psychological action thriller that puts you into the shoes of Jodie Holmes. Jodie has a special connection to a mysterious, supernatural entity that she calls Aiden. As Jodie, we can walk around and interact with the environment and other characters to progress the story. And at almost any point in the game, we can switch control over to Aiden, who can do things such as fly around, move through walls, possess other human beings, interact with certain objects in the environment, and a few other things. Apart from walking around the levels, the gameplay includes real-time stealth and quick-time events during action sequences like chases and combat. We often get to make choices through Jodie's actions and dialogue options, and our actions affect how the story develops, and ultimately how the game ends. Entire scenes can be altered depending on what we choose to do, and in some cases it even affects scenes in later chapters. Not only do our intentional choices affect the world around us, but failing certain action sequences also has an effect on the world, and may even result in certain characters dying. As I mentioned earlier, the game focuses heavily on choices and has a special way of telling the story. It takes us through important moments of Jodie's life in a sequence that, by default, is not in chronological order. We jump from present Jodie to older Jodie to younger Jodie. And while the game does give you an option to play it in chronological order, there is a reason the game tells the story in the way it does, and you'll find out what that reason is once you play through the game fully. Again, this game has a dark tone, and deals with some serious topics. But if you're into these types of creepy, mysterious stories, I can definitely recommend this one. Plus, giving me the option to make choices that affect the story, that's always something I'm interested in. Next up is The Pale Beyond, a survival role-playing game where your choices matter, inspired by historical Antarctic expeditions and developed by Bellier Studios, a small studio based in Belfast. The game lets us play as Robin Shaw, who gets hired as first mate on a ship called the Temperance. Its captain, an old Antarctic expeditionary veteran called Captain Hunt, who is organizing an expedition to find the Temperance's sister ship, the Viscount. With a captain, crew, and now a first mate, the Temperance embarks on a long journey to the cold, icy Antarctic landscapes. All goes according to plan. That is, until the ship gets stuck in the ice and its captain disappears. As first mate, it is now your responsibility to make sure you and your crew make it through the harsh, icy environment and survive the polar winter while you wait for the rescue party. Most of the gameplay revolves around managing resources and gaining your crew's loyalty. Each in-game week that passes, you get to make choices that involve taking requests from crew members regarding food, fuel, and decorum, your main resources, and settling arguments between characters. Every decision you make affects the game and may or may not come back to bite you in the ass later on. Balancing all your resources can be quite a challenge at times. Using up more food now, for example, will result into more decorum representing your crew's overall morale. But this also means people might go hungry later down the line. Choices you make will not only affect your resources and your crew's morale, but also their opinion of you. Every time you make a decision, you will gain and lose loyalty from certain crew members. The more crew members are loyal to you, the more chance of survival you have. Loyalty can be lost or gained through dialogue as well, and the way to gain loyalty will be a little different for every character. Some characters value kindness and compassion. Others prefer it when you're honest, and when you step up to do what it takes to be a strong leader. Each crew member has their own personality and story, and over time you will get to know these characters better and develop a bond with them. This makes it all the more heartbreaking when you lose some of these characters because of choices you made. Yeah, these characters can die. The stakes are high. Overall, this is a great game with beautiful artwork, an intriguing story, charming characters, and captivating music. Your choices really matter, and this game doesn't shy away from putting you in difficult situations where you have to make some really tough choices. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this game was a bit of an emotional roller coaster at times, and I definitely cried a little bit when it came to a certain choice that I had to make, and if you've played this game, I think you can probably guess what choice I'm talking about. But between all the tough decisions and tense situations, there are plenty of heartfelt moments you experience with the members of your crew as well. Just another comfy game to play wrapped up in a blanket, albeit an emotional one. But one I would definitely recommend. So a game I've been really into recently is Stardew Valley, the colorful pixel art farming sim developed by Concerned Ape. In Stardew Valley, we take on the role of a character who inherits their grandfather's abandoned farm in a place known as Stardew Valley. So we quit our boring, soulless job at a Joja company and move into our new home. Our new job is to take care of our farm, which includes growing and taking care of crops and raising animals. While a big part of this game revolves around farming, we can also fish, forage, cook, and explore mines where we can mine for ore and combat creatures. Items that we gain from farming or other activities can all be sold or used in cooking or crafting recipes. We can also take on quests that reward gold, which can include delivering items to an NPC, catching specific fish, or slaying monsters. Apart from all that, there are certain goals we can try to work towards, like getting all achievements and restoring the old abandoned community center. The game has weather, seasons, special seasonal events, and a day and night cycle. During the day, we can do as many activities as our energy meter allows. If your energy meter starts to run out, there are items you can consume that give you some of your spent energy back. Be careful though, once your energy meter completely depletes, you pass out. And speaking of passing out, you can end the day at pretty much any time by getting back into bed, after which the game will progress to the next day. Don't feel like sleeping? Well, too bad. The game automatically ends at 2 AM, and if you're not in bed by then, your character passes out from exhaustion. As you will probably know by now, the game's main focus isn't really on the story, but it does have one. Sort of. There are some story-related quests and new areas that we can discover and unlock as the game progresses. There are also a bunch of NPCs that we can interact with and befriend, and some are even romanceable. These characters aren't as complex as the characters in games like Dragon Age or Baldur's Gate 3, but they all have defined personalities and their own little personal stories. Each character has a friendship meter made up of hearts that increases when we talk to them or give them gifts. Once the meter reaches a certain amount of hearts, you'll unlock a special event cutscene that triggers upon entering certain places at certain times, and each character has multiple of these events. So basically, the more we interact with them, the more we learn about them. And some of these characters actually have pretty tragic backstories. Believe it or not, this game touches on some pretty serious topics sometimes. It doesn't really go into depth that much, but some of these characters' backstories include things like social anxiety, addiction, depression, abuse, and more. Yeah, not something I'd expect from a cute, colorful farming sim. Though, I have to say, the overall tone of the game is really positive. To me, the point that the game is trying to get across is how we as people can work together and use the tools given to us by nature to create something everyone in our little community can benefit from. As opposed to the big soulless Joja corporation, every item we craft, every crop we grow, every painstakingly long in-game hour you spend in the goddamn mines trying to find the fucking stairs to the next level, it was all done out of love. Love for your craft, love for the community, love for the environment. Or you could just go and buy yourself a Joja company membership, I guess. Yep, I sure hope you're proud of yourself. This is yet another nice comfy game that you can pretty much just put down and pick back up whenever you like. And the developer recently announced that on March 19th, patch 1.6 will be released. This patch will add a bunch of new content, so if you're interested in playing this game, March 19th will be a great time to start. So with this next game, I am kind of breaking my own rule where I only wanted to include games on this list that I had actually finished at least once. But I just had to include this one. And in my defense, I was very close to finishing it before I stopped playing, so I say it counts. So this game, a lot of you will probably know. Divinity Original Sin 2. Divinity Original Sin 2 is a CRPG developed by Larian Studios. It is the sequel to Divinity Original Sin and the 5th main entry in the Divinity series. In this game, we take on the role of a sorcerer. Sorcerers are a special type of magic users that can use a unique form of energy called Source to cast incredibly powerful spells. Wielding Source magic is not without risk though, and using it will attract the monstrous creatures known as Voidwoken. For this reason, sorcerers are feared by the rest of the world, and are actively hunted down by an organization called the Divine Order. Sorcerers that get caught are either killed or captured and shipped off to a prison island called Fort Joy, which is about where our adventure starts off. We wake up aboard a ship called the Merryweather with a strange collar around our necks. The very rude lady that is in a room with us tells us that we are on our way to Fort Joy, and the collar around our necks blocks us from using our source magic. As we explore the ship, we run into other prisoners with similar collars around their necks. Sorcerers, just like us, and potential companions. Then a number of things happen that eventually lead to the ship being attacked by Voidwoken. The ship goes under, and we see our character slowly sink into the dark depths of the ocean. But then, we hear a mysterious voice call out to us.
I have plans for you, child. Rise.
Not long after, our character wakes up on the shores of the island Fort Joy is located on, and this is where the adventure really begins. Divinity Original Sin 2 is played from an isometric perspective. It is quite a big game, and like many other games on this list, our choices affect the world around us as well as our companions. So, as I mentioned earlier, we can play as a custom character or one of the origin characters. I've talked about the differences between custom and origin characters before, but in short, custom characters are characters that we create and can customize, and origin characters are pre-made characters that come with their own predefined looks, personality, and backstory. If you play as an origin character, you will have your own personal quest and character-specific dialogue options. Origin characters that you don't play as are available to recruit as companions, but you can also choose to hire mercenaries, fully customizable NPCs that you can make into whatever you like. Each origin companion will have unique dialogue and a personal quest, and will react to the things that you do. They are also romanceable. In character creation, there are various races and classes to choose from, and the game offers a wide variety of builds with high degree of flexibility. If you've played Baldur's Gate 3, the combat system will be very familiar to you. It is turn-based and uses an action point system. Every turn, you can spend movement and perform multiple actions until you run out of action points. The environment also plays a big role, as both player and enemy can utilize high ground and environmental elements to gain advantage. Think of setting things on fire, creating slippery ice surfaces, or using the age-old practice of barrelmancy. Apart from health, characters will have physical and/or magical armor to protect them. Physical armor resisting/blocking physical attacks, and magical armor resisting/blocking magical attacks. If a character has armor, you'll need to get rid of the armor first before being able to actually damage them. And that counts for both you and the enemies. Apart from plenty of combat encounters, there are also a lot of secrets for you to discover, so thorough exploration is definitely rewarded. If you're looking for a new, narrative-driven game to dive into, you like tactical combat and don't mind the sheer scope of this game, Divinity Original Sin 2 is a great option. The last thing on this list I'm going to talk about is not just one game, but an entire game series, because I couldn't pick just one. Life is Strange is a series of adventure games where your choices and actions affect the world and characters around you. Surprise, surprise. The first and second game in this series, along with a spin-off, The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, were developed by Don't Nod Entertainment. Both the prequel Life is Strange Before the Storm and Life is Strange 3 True Colors were developed by Deck 9. The gameplay in the Life is Strange games mainly revolves around exploring areas, picking up items, interacting with other characters and things in the environment, and using the player character's special power or gimmick, which I will talk more about in a little bit. Some people would call the Life is Strange games a walking simulator. And yeah, they kinda are, but honestly, I like the nice, calm pacing these games have. Each of the games follow the story of young protagonists going through life's struggles, adventures, and unexplained mysteries. Loss, heartbreak, drama, friendship, and romance. Now add a pinch of the supernatural to that, or maybe like an entire cup, and you have the perfect recipe for a captivating story that will keep you hooked until the very end. In the main 3 games of the series, the protagonists each have their own unique superpower that they can use to help them through their adventure, each of which offering a unique gameplay mechanic. Life is Strange 1 takes place in Oregon, in the fictional town of Arcadia Bay. We play as Max Caulfield, who has the ability to rewind time and alter the course of events. By using these powers, Max saves her childhood friend Chloe from being shot in the school bathroom by one of her fellow students. After reconnecting, Max helps Chloe in her mission to find out what happened to her friend and former student, Rachel Amber, after her mysterious disappearance, while at the same time trying to make sense of her new powers and strange visions of a terrible storm destroying their hometown. Life is Strange Before the Storm takes place 3 years before Life is Strange 1, and follows Chloe as she meets and befriends Rachel Amber and struggles with the death of her father. Life is Strange 2 follows the journey of the 2 brothers Sean and Daniel, as they travel along the US West Coast as fugitives after Daniel discovers his telekinetic abilities. Unlike the first installment of the series, the player isn't the one with the superpowers this time. Instead, we play as the older brother Sean, who has to protect and guide his younger brother as he learns how to use and control his new powers. As the older brother, Sean will act as an example for Daniel, and our actions will strongly influence Daniel's morale and behavior. For example, the game gives us multiple opportunities to steal things, and doing so will get Daniel to think stealing is okay, even if our reasons for doing so are purely for survival. The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit acts as a sort of a prequel to Life is Strange 2, and gives us a brief look into the life of Chris, a young boy around Daniel's age and a character that we meet in Life is Strange 2. The third Life is Strange game, True Colors, tells the story of Alex Chen, whose life has been quite an emotional roller coaster, you could say. Alex's special power is that she has the ability to see, experience, and manipulate other people's emotions, seeing these emotions as bright colored auras. After 8 years, Alex leaves her foster care group to go live with her brother Gabe in a small town called Haven Springs in Colorado. However, not long after, Gabe dies in a so-called accident. With her new friends Steph and Ryan, Alex attempts to find answers as she embraces and utilizes her supernatural power, and uncovers some of the town's dark secrets. Again, if you're into narrative-driven story games and don't mind a calm pacing, I would highly recommend playing the Life is Strange games. The characters are fun, the stories are interesting and make me feel things, and there's even an element of romance. Also, the whole mood, feel, and aesthetic of these games is just great. I can't properly express what I mean in words, so I'll let the game speak for itself. Okay, so I can't properly close out this list without at least briefly mentioning Dragon Age and Baldur's Gate 3. It would feel a bit silly to give them an entire bit in this video because I talk about them all the time on this channel and you guys already know how much I love these games. But they are still games I recommend you play if you haven't yet. And I'll also mention the Mass Effect games while I'm at it. Yes, even Mass Effect Andromeda. For all its faults, I enjoyed it a lot, and I've actually finished it twice. Fantasy is definitely front and center on this channel, as it is my favorite genre, but you know what? I love the Mass Effect games as well, and I would actually like to cover them more on this channel at some point, especially once we know more about the next Mass Effect game. Whenever that may be. Anyway, I guess this was the random ramble about video games that I love. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, let me know by liking this video. Or leave a comment and tell me if you have played any of these games, or if you're interested in playing any of them. Is there a game you would recommend me? I'd honestly love to hear from you. If you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon, or join my Discord server where we can continue rambling about our favorite video games. That's it for now though. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one.